Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are going to have a more personal and what I would, for me at least, a heavy topic because it is something that has underpinned the last about 10 years of my life. And I think what makes it the most heavy for me to process or even talk about is the fact that I didn't even know that it was going on for 10 years. And so it's just kind of been like under my radar, and it has unfortunately impacted not just my relationship with myself, but my relationship with others and my relationship with God. And if you are or have been someone who has kind of struggled with this particular thing, you know how debilitating it can be. Again, not just with relationships as well, but even finances. How you see yourself, how you interact with other people socially, and even just a drivenness to accomplish more, to succeed, or to present to the world that you are perfect. And that is what I have been wrestling with for the past couple of years. You know, like the last 1 or 2 years, the Lord has really had to show me myself in different capacities by talking to therapists, trusted advisors, godly counsel, and just showing me the things that I was dealing with that I didn't know at the time, that I was struggling with. And perfectionism continued to come back up over and over and over again. And it was so difficult for me to receive that criticism, albeit true, from the people that God had put in my life to instruct me and to counsel me concerning that issue, because what people would say is me not being myself or presenting my real self to the world. I always believed that that was truly who I was. And it really wasn't because my intent was to deceive anyone or to come off as perfect, but because I was so detached from the true version of myself, the one that God created in the secret place, that the perfection that I presented to other people, it seemed like who I really was. And the reason why is because I was dealing with low self-esteem. And low self-esteem, I didn't really want to talk about it at all because I never want to be seen as a victim. And that's something that God has really had to confront me about and show me myself concerning this season as well, is that it's okay to be broken. It's that there's beauty in brokenness, and there's a benefit in brokenness. And so the moment that I not necessarily took ownership of low self-esteem, but I acknowledged and I was aware that that was something that I was struggling with, it really opened up the door for healing to take place. And I'm in the middle of my process right now, but it's just something I just want to connect with the audience concerning, because it could be something that you're struggling with, but because you look a certain way, because you have accomplished a certain amount of things, because you look perfect to the world, you could never really know what's going on inside because you're looking for external validation to tell you who you are consistently. And that was my situation. And I want to make sure that the people that watch this video understand that that is not the way that God intends for our lives to be. He really wants us to experience true freedom and peace and have no more fear of other people, but only worthy and holy fear in Him, and to love ourselves completely and to see ourselves as worthy to Him, but also of the things that He has for us. So before I get into telling you guys how I actually found out that I had low self-esteem, because I did have to find out, because low self-esteem has a way of blinding you emotionally and spiritually, because you can go your whole life putting up these walls and these barriers to protect yourself, because it is something that is so internally wounded within you that you never want to let people get too far in, and you never really want to let anything get out. And so I found out in a very dramatic way, but when I did, it made a lot of things make sense. So just to be quite straightforward, the definition of low self-esteem means not holding yourself in high regard. In essence, it's like you don't respect yourself. You don't see yourself as worthy. And the reason why I said that I wrestle with low self-esteem is, one, because God actually told me. But the other thing that really kept me from confronting it and understanding it was that I have high confidence. And so I want to make sure that when you guys watch this video, you don't conflate confidence with self-esteem, because that's what I did. And that's why when people would tell me, oh, Jordan, I think you don't respect yourself, or you're having signs of low self-esteem, I couldn't receive it, because in my mind, I'm very confident in what I look like. I'm confident in my skills. I'm confident in my abilities. Overall, I'm a very confident person. But low self-esteem has to do how you feel about yourself on the inside. You can have confidence, which means you take the external validation that other people give to you because of what you do and what you produce, what you look like. It's all external. But low self-esteem is how you feel about yourself. When there's no one else around, can you validate? Can you affirm? Can you be secure in yourself? And when you don't have that, you are unfortunately suffering with low self-esteem. So some signs of low self-esteem include negative self-talk and self-criticism, constant comparison with others, difficulty accepting compliments, overly concerned about others' opinions, fear of failure leading to avoiding challenges, feeling of unworthiness or not being good enough, difficulty expressing needs or setting boundaries, reluctance to trust one's own judgment, social withdrawal and anxiety in social situations, and persistent feelings of sadness or depression. And so, like I said, these are all deep inner things, right? Things that you have to work through, you have to understand, you have to acknowledge about yourself. And when I read that list, again, it makes me even more sad because I realize now how much of that has been my life story. There have been so many times I was afraid to fail because I didn't want to let other people down. I was afraid if I didn't accomplish something the way that I did the last time, that I would somehow be less worthy of love or appreciation or just belonging. You know what I mean? And that is the difference between self-confidence and self-esteem, is that even when you don't produce, even when you don't perform, do you still love yourself? Do you still see yourself as worthy of respect, of kindness, and of good things in life, even though you may have fallen short according to someone else's standards? And what I had to do is even now reflect back on moments where I depended on someone else's validation to now go back and validate myself, but also ask myself, what does God think of me? Because the Bible tells us that God thinks good thoughts towards us. And so there are times when I would struggle with something where I feel like I'm falling short, I'm missing the mark, and I would call myself lazy, or I would call myself a terrible Christian, or I would say I'm unfaithful, and I would have to take a step back and ask myself, did God ever say those things about me? And if God didn't say them about me, then they're probably not things that should even cross my mind or I should accept to say to myself. So I am going through my process. I'm not going to go into too much details about what that looks like or what that is, but just know that this is a season where the Lord is pruning me. The Lord is breaking down and undoing things that are yokes of oppression in my life that have kept me in bondage in ways that are very, very subtle, because on the outside looking in, I'm very favored by God. I live a very fruitful and beautiful life that I can honestly say are only because of his goodness, his kindness, and his faithfulness towards me. But on the inside, I have not been living in true freedom because I haven't been able to be who he called me to be. Maybe what I can do some of the things that he asked me to do, but who I am is important to him. And so he had to take me through a series of dreams and revelations for me to get to a place where I started to understand that there was so much about my life that was hidden from me, because trauma has a way of altering the brain to either forget things that happened to you or to stuff them so far in mental compartments that you never allow them to resurface so that you can really deal with them. And the wonderful thing about God is that he will show us these things. He will remind us of what happened to us. He will bring to remembrance things that we really don't want to face, but not with the intent to hurt us or to harm us, but with the intent to save us and to deliver us from them. When the Spirit of truth comes, when the Holy Spirit comes to sanctify and deliver us, he is concerned with every part of our lives. The Bible tells us that we should prosper just as our souls prosper. And so just as much as he is concerned with our spiritual growth and development, he is also concerned with the health of our souls. And my soul was not in good shape. My soul has not been in good shape for about the past 10 years. And I would even say even longer than that, because I started to experience a lot of childhood abuse and trauma as early as 6 years old. And one day I think the Lord released me to share those things, whether it's, in a book or in a video. But those were things that I didn't want to remember because it did not align with the image of perfection that I wanted to show other people. Like I said earlier in this video, I never wanted to be considered a victim. I don't like wearing that title. I don't feel like a victim, even though I know some things that put me in a victim position happened to me.
Well, I typically think of victimhood as, part of your story or part of your journey. I don't actually see it as something that holds you back. Some people use that as an argument to keep victimizing you, so that you would not acknowledge the thing that happened. Right? And you're supposed to just muscle through it, but that's not what God calls us to do. Right. It's part of our story. It's part of our journey. It's what makes us who we are, everything that happens to us and everything we do. And so I believe that it's important to acknowledge that you are a victim, but not that it is stopping you. Right, yeah. And so that's how I see it. But I understand, again, the arguments about claiming victimhood and, saying that you can't do anything, but, whatever.
When I went to college, like a big discourse was around like victimizing women, and it was all about female empowerment. And so part of the things that I learned was that you never want to be seen as a victim, like as a woman, and to continue to, like you said, weaponize that against you as a woman. It feels like it's just happening to you over and over and over and over again, because people will oftentimes assign what happened to you altogether. And like that becomes your identity to them. And so that's what I never wanted to happen. But it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, like, what is one person's opinion of me going to do? And that's the point. It's that because I wanted to be so perfect to other people, it was really not even about being perfect or presenting myself to them. Is really because I feared their opinions of me. And even by not accepting the fact that something did happen to me, it's a sign that I fear people's opinions more than I fear what God thinks of me. Yeah, I even think the victim, what would you call that? Like not wanting to be a victim, that mindset.
You don't want to look weak. Like you want to take
Yes, not wanting to look weak. It consumed me so much that even when I would share parts of my life on social media that weren't so polished or were more vulnerable times, which you can go on there and see my Instagram, what I'm talking about. Right after that, I would go back to the same image of perfection. And so I kind of asked the Lord the other day, and I was like, why is it so hard for me to connect with people? And it's because like I'm not really being myself. And so this is how he actually revealed it to me. Through all of these revelations and dreams he was giving me as I'm going through my process, he woke me up randomly at 3:43 a.m. one night. And I say random, but nothing is really random with God. 3:43 a.m., he woke me up and he said, the root is low self-esteem. And this comes after people hinting at it, saying it in different ways. But me, even saying, okay, I can understand why you would say that, why I'm not being myself, or that I want to be so perfect. And why do I want to be perfect? But I can't express to people how difficult it is to hear people consistently say, Jordan, you're not being yourself, but not being able to really understand or receive what they're saying, because you are convinced that you are being yourself. Just because you don't even know what the other part of yourself really looks like, because you've been so detached from it for so long. And so when people tell me that I'm presenting, I'm like, I'm being myself. I am. And then they would say, but there's other parts to you that you're not showing. And I would have to ask, well, can you show me those parts of me? Because I can't see them for myself. And so when the Lord told me that the root is low self-esteem, he began to really break down to me all of the ways that this has created bondage in my life and even in my bloodline. My mother has dealt with it in her own way. My grandmother dealt with it in her own way. And it made me more comfortable and even feel more safe with the Lord, because even though it was something that I was struggling with for years before, he never once used it against me. He never once said that I was broken. He never once said that I'm not good enough to him. He loved me in spite of, and that love that he showed me in that moment, it overwhelmed me so much that it gave me the strength to confront this issue and to move forward with the Lord so that he can truly deliver me from the issue altogether. So I want to talk about this as well, because a part of the process is that the Lord has to get in there. The Bible tells us that he stands at the door and he knocks. He's such a gentleman. Even when he reveals something to you, he is not going to force himself on you. He's showing you because he's saying, I have the power. I have the ability to set you free from this once and for all. Will you take my hand and walk on this journey with me? We still have the right to say no, and he respects that because he respects choice at the end of the day. And so I had to really really allow the Lord to show me every way that this was not benefiting me. Because my therapist would always say something to me. She'd always say, every behavior serves a purpose. And so even in my desire to be perfect, even in my desire to never fail and to always succeed in front of people, to always win the applause of people, even though it was hurting me internally, it still served a purpose. It still did something for me. And I couldn't understand what that was until the Lord told me that I had been trying to protect myself. And because I was protecting myself, even He could not draw close enough to me to be able to get into the wounds of the heart that still needed to be healed, right? Self-protection is completely unbiblical. We hear time and time again throughout the Psalms where David constantly leaves his life, his salvation, in the hands of the Lord. The Bible tells us when we see God saving someone, He says, I, the Lord, will save you. I, the Lord, will deliver them. I, the Lord, will set them free. I, the Lord, will redeem them. The Lord does these things with our yes, with our participation. And so I wasn't participating with Him, even when He revealed it to me, until I agreed with the Lord that I was protecting myself, and that over the years, all of these habits and this image that I had built to do that, it served me in some way. And because it served me in some way, it was really, really hard for me to let go of it. And even now, one of the things that I have to confront is the fact that freedom is available to me. But what He had to tell me is that, yes, freedom is available to you, but the reason why you can't access it is because you're actually afraid of what it's like to be free. Because you've been in bondage so long, you're comfortable with the bondage. You're comfortable with what you've built. You're comfortable with what you present to the world so much that you can't even accept that maybe you are going to be somebody different on the other side of this. But that person is going to be so much greater, so much more free, and so much more like Christ than I could ever imagine for myself right now. So freedom comes at a high price. It's going to be a lot of sacrifice, and it's going to be a journey, a walk with the Lord that I'm willing to take. But the cost of staying the same is actually far greater than I perceive it to be right now with staying the same. The Bible tells us in James that we are enticed by our own desires. And by that, that's what we're led astray with. I believe that's James 1:14 and 15, right? And what that scripture is actually telling us is that a wounded soul is one of the most common ways for unclean spirits to attach themselves to you and defile you. Now, that's a topic for a whole nother day, but I insert that because if I continue to let low self-esteem persist, if I continue to let the wounds and the childhood trauma that caused this thing to emerge in my life persist, I was going to continue to face spiritual attacks that I may not have been able to overcome as well as I can now that I am walking in the freedom and in the light of the Lord that makes manifest. And so this video is kind of like all over the place, but it's my heart. I just wanted to share my heart with you guys about where I'm at. Have I overcome low self-esteem? No, but I am overcoming it. And it's because it's so pervasive that you will find it in so many areas of your life. It does not stop until it still kills and destroys every part of you. And so I found it in dating, which has kind of been something that the enemy's always used to attack me, is the consistently choosing narcissistic partners. And why do I keep attracting those kind of partners? It's because I didn't respect myself. And so I'm okay with being with someone who would charm me for a couple of days or even weeks, but then would become psychologically or emotionally abusive because that was comfortable for me. It influences my finances and just deciding to make purchases that maybe I can't afford all the time, but because it goes with my image, I'll get it anyways. It influences my relationship with my father and my brother, not being able to connect with them. It influences my relationship with women as well, having this spirit of competition and jealousy sometimes. And I know you're probably watching this like, not Jordan Turner, and that's why I didn't want to make the video, but that's why I needed to make the video. So people can understand that there are more layers to me, that I am a person and I am going through my process just like everyone else is going to have to at some point in their relationship with Christ. But it is being vulnerable, it is being transparent, it is by our testimony that we are able to overcome with the blood of the Lamb, right? And so I wanted you guys to know and let you guys in to my little world that has just been up and down for the past 3 months. But I am so excited about what God is going to produce out of the testimony that He's building in me. The Lord is writing a new story with my life, and this video is just a preface to that. It is my way of, opening up to the world and letting them inside to see all the parts of me. And I believe that as He's writing this book about me, He's also going to be doing the same thing for anyone that watches this video and that this speaks to. 2 Corinthians 3:3 says that you show that you are a letter from Christ, the result of our ministry, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not on tablets of stones, but on tablets of human hearts. So in a sense, I believe that God is going to produce such a great testimony out of my life and out of so many other young women who have suffered from the fear of rejection, people pleasing, the fear of man, and low self-esteem. And He's going to build a testimony that's so great that it writes the Spirit of God in our lives on human hearts. And by this, they will know the power of God. So thank you so much for watching, and thank you for being a part of this journey with me. This is Made Manifest with Jordan Elise Turner.